and welcome to Wolves World. This is the match review of the disappointing 1-0 defeat at the King Power Stadium to Leicester City. I think before the game started I said I wanted a 1-1 draw, which I would have definitely taken, and I did for a long period of time think we would get. But I also wanted a bit more excitement, cut and thrust, end-to-end action, and that was just not what presented it to us today. Firstly, fair play to Leicester. I thought they had a game plan at home, which, as expected, was to try and get the ball early, dominate the possession, and try and create some chances, which they didn't really create the chances, but obviously certainly the first penalty, which they did score, and then the second penalty later, they were their only real reward for the possession that they had. I thought Wolves were, as usual in first half, way too passive, and conceding that penalty to a team like Leicester was always going to make it difficult, even though, and we knew they'd much improve in the second half. That performance in the second half was very good, I thought, at times. Still didn't probably create enough chances, but at least we put a bit of zip into our play, had a bit more possession, in fact more than them, and indeed created some chances, which we definitely did not in the first half. I thought Leicester, the one thing they did in particular that really nullified one of Wolves' major threats was Jamie Vardy just sat on Conor Cody for the first half, maybe even first 10-15 minutes of the second half as well. And I would guess that, I don't have the stats, but I would guess that was the least Conor Cody's touched a ball in a Wolves game for a long time. And I think that did make a big difference to how we were moving the ball and how the possession and the play was getting switched. Neves was asked to drop even deeper then, which for me meant we really were left with Dendoncker and the front three to try and do anything. Nuri had a poor game. I'll go on to my player rating shortly. And Semedo, I think, could have done a lot more than he did. Wasn't bad, but wasn't good either. I think something that was noticeable today as well was Jimenez, I think, and he has done this a few times recently, was cutting quite a frustrated figure high up the pitch. I think Podence was nothing that he tried today came off particularly. Neto, although again as usual, all action, lots of pace. He didn't really have a great creative game either, and it left Jimenez quite isolated against what I thought in Fofana was an excellent centre half. I've not really seen a lot of him. I've heard things about him, and actually he exceeded the expectations I've had of him, and that was just really down to Wolves not being able to get Jimenez in the game. That forced him to drop deeper, forced him to go wide, and yes, we know he's a great all-round footballer, but he's our goal scorer, our main man. He's got to be in that box. I think if you take a look at Calvert-Lewin recently, he's been working on just getting in around the penalty area in the width of the posts, and I think Jimenez needs to maybe get back to doing that. Not that I'm worried about his goal scoring drying up or anything, but I think in the last 2, maybe 3 games, he spent a lot of time not in those key areas, and Podence and Neto in particular are not going to be causing much harm from crosses or anything like that comes in. So I'd like to see Jimenez in the future get right back up in between that area of the box and posts. I think another thing to talk about is probably the effort from Neves in the second half with some save. I mean, I'm still sat here now wondering how he did that. He can't even have seen it. He must have guessed. It was a great bit of play that led to it, and an excellent effort. And Schmeichel somehow clawed that out of nowhere in from the top corner, which would have, I think, changed the game. And I think we'd have probably gone on to win had that have gone in. So to discuss the player ratings, as you can see, I think it suggests a pretty average performance, which is what we got. A few I'd like to comment on, really. I thought Patricio maybe unlucky not to get an 8. Can't really fault him for anything there. But I felt kicking in a few times, just general distribution could have improved. Thought Semedo had a real opportunity today to be better than he was. He put in a few nice balls, but apart from that, he was quite passive. Also on top of that, Podence and Jimenez were just not in the game enough really for me, especially in the second half when we started pressing. I thought Podence let his touch get away from him a few times, often ran into men, and Jimenez was just, I think, guilty of trying to do a bit too much today. I thought Cody and Bolly were definitely the pick of the defenders today, although Kilman was unlucky with the penalty, didn't do a lot wrong, but I thought Bolly actually was outstanding today. He was my man of the match, didn't put a foot wrong, composed on the ball at his feet, in the air, won his battles, and carried the ball out when he had the opportunity to do so. Neves and Dendoncker again. I thought Dendoncker lacked a bit of conviction with the few chances that came his way, and his sort of edge around the box wasn't really there today, which is a shame because that's where I think he's got a real chance of stepping up and being a big player for us. Neves again, free kick I think summed him up really. A lot of expectation, a lot of hope, a lot of potential there, and after coming off such a good game against Palace last week, I just didn't really feel he asserted his authority on the match. At a time when first half, yes, it was difficult, didn't expect a lot, but I thought in the second half he could have been a bit more incisive and forward thinking with his passing. And obviously the one that I think stands out for me is Ait Nouri. I did call it out in my pre-match preview that I thought today he'd be tested defensively, and I think he was found wanting quite a lot. Maybe it was a game in reflection to have started Marcel if he is indeed 100% fit, because they did, and I think we knew they would, have the ball the first sort of 30 to 40 minutes, and it might have been better to have that shoe ahead, more experience at the back. Also, I think he warranted his 4 because his attacking play today really lacked a bit of final decision-making or ball playing. Certainly a few good chances for crosses. He either didn't get them in or they were very poor. On another note, I thought Traore, I did call for him to come off the bench and to make a difference to the game, and he did indeed do that. But I think it took him too long to start doing that after he came on. He had 10 minutes where he didn't really do a lot. And then he sort of picked up a little bit after that. But I just feel if Wolves are going to bring him on, you've got to just keep getting the ball to him, And he just wasn't in it enough for someone who should have come on and really been looking to burn people with his pace down that side. He put in a good ball or two, created a chance maybe, which is why he got his 7. But I think overall he still didn't quite do enough for me. And finally, Silva, while it was lovely to see him for more minutes this time, he got nearly 20, including added time. He just didn't get in and around it, and when he did, the ball bounced off him, or he hadn't obviously, and expected, hadn't built this partnership with Jimenez yet to know what each other were. But yeah, a little disappointing because those subs could have made a big difference to the game, and I don't think they really did. But I think even after all of that discussion, one thing that's still evident for Wolverhampton Wanderers is we are not making enough use of the first half of football matches. Against teams lower down in the league who you know how they're going to play and they're not going to create a lot of chances, I think that tactic works from time to time. And yes, it didn't work against Newcastle, and it did just about work against Fulham earlier in the season. But I think if we keep wasting those 45 minutes, especially in the games that are coming up, when we've got teams who create chances all the time, we're going to get found wanting, and we are not going to be able to score 2 goals every second half of football. And if you're going 1-0 down at half-time, ultimately that's what you need. And I think there's got to be something done to pick up those first half performances, like we've seen against Palace and like we saw against Sheffield United. We know we can do it, and I'm not sure why we're not going into these games, even against teams like Leicester, who are at least on a par with us, but I mean, arguably better, and certainly the result today showed that. I think we've got to be taking the game to these teams a bit more than we do. If we can manage that, I think we'll start seeing some more exciting games of football, which we didn't get today. And I think we'll start seeing some reward for the attacking players that we actually do have, because our players are not matching our play at the moment, which is a lot slower and less creative than I think we certainly could and should be. A few positives from today. I thought he brought on Traore at a good time, a bit earlier than usual. And also bringing on Silva, who, yes, ultimately, I don't think really had any impact on the game. And I maybe, in hindsight, would have liked to see Neto stay on, because, again, he didn't have a bad game. But it's nice to see Silva getting these chances now, because he isn't going to learn to do anything in the Premier League if he gets 4 or 5 minutes at the end of a game that's either won or lost. Today, he got best part of 20 minutes, including the added time, where he genuinely had a chance to make a difference to a game. He should have got more touches than he did. But that's down to him. But ultimately, he looked like he wanted to work hard. He looked like he was ready to play. Yes, it didn't come off for him today, but I think it's pleasing from Nuno that those two subs in particular happened earlier and were less predictable than he normally is. And when you're chasing a game, sometimes those changes can make a big difference. Yes, it didn't work today, but I'll be honest, I was pleased to see him try, and I think the idea was right there. So we move on now to a tough month in the rest of November and December after international fixtures. I do think the work on the training ground, we are looking quite solid, because I don't think Leicester really created a lot today, apart from when the game was a bit stretched near the end, Harvey Barnes' chance. But apart from that, they were pretty limited, like we were, to sort of the odd chance that wasn't really created from great play, more just a bit of luck or a bit of speed on the counter. But yes, I think moving forwards, we've got some tough games, but we've got it, as long as we're willing to take people on and go at them, which we know Wolves like to do against the bigger teams, and we have them coming up. I think there's a lot of positivity moving forwards. We've got a good points tally at this stage, not that that means too much, and I think the performances are growing and improving, and I think we can get to a level where we're happy and consistent after this international break. Even if there's another defeat or two thrown in, no one's really setting it alight at the moment. Everyone's beating everybody, and I think we're in a very comfortable, nice position, which I certainly would have taken after that 4-0 hammering at West Ham a few weeks ago. So I have started this YouTube channel with only the one game immediately before an international break. So in terms of our match previews and reviews, you've had the chance to see one of those for this Leicester game. I also want to add in some other content now over the next international break, next few weeks. I'm looking to do some player analysis. I'm looking to do some discussions around maybe the dreaded VAR, which I've consciously stayed away from in this review because I think everyone knows what we need to say about it. But I wanted to do some more detailed things like that coming up. So please, if you can like, subscribe and share this channel with everybody, hopefully I'll start providing content that you're really interested in, and the page can grow and expand. So please hit subscribe, have a watch of some of my other videos as well, which will be excellent, just to see what I'm about, and hopefully we can build this channel. Thank you very much for watching. Sad day for Wolves today, but I think some positives to take out of it. I look forward to seeing you soon, tuning in. Don't forget, like, subscribe at NorthernWolf10 and wolvesworldchannel@gmail.com. Thanks very much. Bye.